What is going on, YouTube fam? It's your boy Wisco Madman coming at you with the day 10 breakdown of the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. The reason why we don't have a breakdown for day 9 is because, for the most part, I watched through that entire day. There's not much noteworthy information from said event. So basically all that happens on day 9, I'll cover it quick in this video, is that the jury is not in the courtroom, as far as I'm aware, as far as what I could tell from the trial video. And the arguments brought to the judge are simply about whether or not certain charges should be included. So when I say whether or not certain charges should be included, the argument is from the defense and the prosecution, not on whether or not Kyle did anything, but whether or not certain charges conflict with other charges. Whether or not it's possible to not convict on a first degree and whether or not he could pick up the second degree or things like that. So these are all things that are brought to the judge and a final idea of what needs to be decided on, what needs to be deliberated by the jury upon, is decided on so they can present that to the jury and the judge can instruct the jury how to go about making their decision. And when I say how to, just simply what they need to find is probable. So as we get into day 10, I'll kind of explain what they're looking for. Now, day 10, as I said, now they open the day out. The jury is back in the courtroom. The jury is told what charges they're deliberating on, what charges they have to decide guilty or not guilty for Kyle Rittenhouse. So the counts for the jury to review, the judge opens up. Those that are unaware of how court proceedings work, the judge is instructing the jury on what charges they're going to deliberate on. The first count is first-degree reckless homicide, use of a dangerous weapon, which is what I like to call an additional, or what they call an additional. You know, I want to say multiplier, but multiplier is probably incorrect because it doesn't multiply the amount of years. So it's an additional, which this first-degree reckless homicide is in correlation or in reference to the killing of Joseph Rosenbaum, the first victim, I guess, for lack of a better word. Even the judge talks about the fact that victim is not a word they use in the courtroom because that's what the jury's there to determine, is whether or not victim or, you know, they caused their own circumstance, meaning they wouldn't be a victim, which maybe in a legal sense, but for the sake of normal people talk, I would say victim is probably the proper word because I don't feel that it determines that there's any sort of guilt. You can be a victim even if you're the one who caused your victimhood. You can provoke somebody and still be a victim of their reaction. At least that's kind of the way I understand it, or how I take it. So anyway, first-degree reckless homicide, use of a dangerous weapon in reference to Joseph Rosenbaum is the first count. The first-degree reckless homicide is 60 years penalty, and the dangerous weapon addition adds an additional 5 years. Number 2 is first-degree reckless endangering safety, which also has the dangerous weapon addition, and that's in reference to Richie McGinnis because the claim is that Richie McGinnis being behind Joseph when Joseph was shot, that was recklessly endangering the safety of Richie. However, I do believe that in deliberation, the way he gets off on that, because I know it comes across like, oh my God, how can he get off on recklessly endangering safety? Richie McGinnis was in the line of fire. Yes, Richie McGinnis was in the line of fire. However, in the first count that was in relation to whether or not he murdered Joseph Rosenbaum or whether it was self-defense, if it's considered self-defense, the judge then instructs that's what he was instructing the jury, is there's circumstances. So if they find that it's self-defense for count 1, then that means that count 2 is nix. Upon self-defense, you cannot recklessly endanger safety, according to what he said. I'm just stating the facts, not anything else. Not currently. So I'll try to make my opinions clear, but that's not an opinion. That's straight up facts. Count 2 is irrelevant upon self-defense determination. So count 3 is first degree reckless endangering safety, and this is number 2, reckless endangering safety. So same charge, different circumstance. This circumstance is in relation to who they call Dropkick Man, or who I've called Dropkick Man, and I believe the actual term they were using in court is reference to Jump Kick Man, because he jumps up and kicks Kyle in the face, or attempts to. So the reason we call him Jump Kick Man is because we don't know who he is. He's not come forward. He's not been identified, at least not in this case. Those shots missed, as we heard in evidence, and then the determination is whether or not he was recklessly endangering safety. So this is the same charge as count 2, just in a different circumstance, and I forgot to tell you the amount of years. Reckless endangering safety is 12.5 years. The dangerous weapon addition, again, is 5 more years. So these charges hold a total of 17.5 years if convicted. So count number 4 is first degree intentional homicide. Yeah, first degree intentional homicide. And sorry, I review my notes as I go here because I want to be clear on what was said and how this stuff works. Day 10, we got a total of six total pages of notes. It was by far the most information-packed event because there's also closing statements after the introduction of charges or introduction of the counts. So, first degree intentional homicide with the dangerous weapon addition, and this is in relation to Anthony Huber. So, for this charge, you're looking at another 60 years plus 5 for the dangerous weapon. So that's a total of 65 years in relation to the possible murder of, or accused murder of Anthony Huber. Again, self-defense applies to all these scenarios. We know this. And then there is an additional option included. If not first degree, there's an option for second degree. I don't want to say anything incorrect, so I'm not sure how much the second degree would carry for years. This is my opinion. This is not the fact, or this is what I think it is. I'm not 100%, but I believe second degree goes down to 30, if I understand correctly, because there's another circumstance in count 5 where I have noted that second degree attempted is 30. Oh, no, because whatever. Anyway, so a second degree is a potential option. How many years? I'm not sure. Then count 5, we have attempted first degree intentional homicide. And that's also got the dangerous weapon multiplier. This is in relation to Gage Grosskreutz. That carries 60 years plus 5 for the dangerous weapon. There's a potential or an option for second degree if they find that first degree is not the case. Second degree attempted homicide. And then there's also an option for first degree reckless endangerment. The second degree carries 30 years for the attempted homicide. The first degree reckless carries 12 and a half. All of these are kind of either or scenarios. I don't think they can compile. They can only decide which one they want to take for count 5. So count 6 is dismissed. Completely irrelevant. I'll read it in regardless. But count 6 is the possession of a dangerous weapon under the age of 18. However, the reason it's been dismissed by the judge is because when you read into it, law is always complicated. And the way this is stated is not 100% clear that just because you possessed a weapon under 18 means that it's illegal. The clarifier in there and the way the language is stated, the judge has found that it's in reference to a short barrel weapon, which they did measure the barrel, and I believe 16 inches is the mark, and the AR-15 does not qualify as a short-barreled weapon. So the judge dismissed it because it's not a short-barreled weapon. So, as I said, count 6, irrelevant. That's something that I know I heard amongst the news and stuff being shared on social media. That's one of the reasons why I'm doing these videos, is because I had heard, oh, it's a crock of shit and everything else. Well, if you actually watch the case, you start to understand why things are the way they are. And that's why the media often ends up manipulating things or putting their slant on it or their narrative on it. Clearly, their narrative was incorrect. So, what is each charge exactly? I talked about it a little bit. I'll just brush up on it to review. But count 1, the first degree reckless homicide, use of a dangerous weapon, recklessly caused the death of Joseph Rosenbaum with utter disregard for human life, while in possession of a dangerous weapon is the additional. Number 2, and I'm just brushing over this because there's a lot of technicalities in this that for normal people, most of us don't care. Most of us just want to know what the charges are, what the potential years behind it are, kind of the idea of how you would convict upon it. So, count 2, the first degree reckless endangering safety. In relation to Richie McGinnis, defendant was aware that he caused an unreasonable risk of death to Richie McGinnis with utter disregard for human life, which obviously means count 3 being the exact same thing, just in relation to jump kick man. And the defendant was, again, aware that he caused an unreasonable risk of death to jump kick man and an utter disregard for human life. We move on to counts 4 and 5. Both of those require intent to kill, but no length of time is specified in how long that intent was. It could have been a split second beforehand. It could have been a day. Doesn't matter. So, Then count 4 specifically is he caused the death of Anthony Huber with intent to kill. And that was first-degree intentional homicide, dangerous weapon. So he intended to kill, knowingly, intended to kill Anthony Huber is the claim. Number 5 is attempted first-degree intentional homicide, dangerous weapon, and that's just caused the death of Gage Gross. Attempted to cause the death. That I missed my modifier in there. Attempted to cause the death of Gage Grosskreutz with intent. All these are basically include utter disregard for human life, which is just fancy mumbo jumbo that they throw around to add extra guilt to your charges. It's murder. Duh. Like, get so dramatic. It's murder. If you convict him, he goes to prison. Be done. So, another note that I have here, if anybody's curious, first degree basically just means intent. It was intentional that he tried to kill somebody or he endangered them or whatever. First degree is intent. Second degree is no intent. So second degree is, it's just unintentional. It was a byproduct of some other action. Now we move into the closings. This is where it actually gets interesting. So we're 17 minutes in here, and I'm just starting on closings. Told you there were 6 pages. We've only gone through 1.5. There's a lot of info. Stay with me. So Binger's closing, the prosecution's closing, comes up and basically he starts to try to paint the picture. You know, what lawyers generally do in their closings is try to paint a picture. So he just simply he brings up a PowerPoint. He has a PowerPoint presentation. And he says Kyle is a 17-year-old who killed two unarmed people, and severely wounded a third with an AR-15 that he knew he could not have. I've already noticed by the judge's dismissal, not adding any opinion to this, I'm just stating a fact, but by the judge's dismissal and judge's interpretation of said law, said statute, that information is actually false. He's lying. Clearly. But he doesn't heed prior decisions, so whatever. So now he mentions that Kyle was not protecting his home, he was not protecting his family, you know, just kind of painting this whole picture. He killed them after going to another state and staying out past a citywide curfew. Killings had nothing to do with protecting the business that he had never heard of. He lied about being an EMT. None of this is in dispute, Binger says. Did he actually care about the car source? Was he actually interested in helping people that night? He lied about being an EMT. He ran around with an AR-15. Mind you, key point, Binger likes to use the catchphrase AR-15. It's not a catchphrase. It's buzzword. That's what I'm looking for. So he continuously AR-15, assault rifle. Yeah, and we buzz. Anyway, so he wasn't there to support BLM. He wasn't there to support Black Lives Matter or Jacob Blake. He was not there to protest any of this, to demonstrate against any of this, or for BLM in this case, actually. So Binger mentions that we recognize that life is always more important than property. People have a preconceived notion and tend to tailor these facts to fit that notion. And that notion that he's trying to get you to go away from is that Kyle was heroic or honorable to provoke and shoot unarmed people. Binger spends this whole time in a very patronizing, condescending type tone. Let's keep this in mind. Feel free, if I remember, I will actually keep a link down below here to the actual day 10 video footage. If you watch any of the days, day 10, fast forward through the charges part and just go to the closing statements. Don't go to any manipulated stuff, just the PBS footage, the direct court TV footage, and you see for yourself. Develop your own opinions. So, he says it wasn't honorable to lie about being an EMT. And the defendant enjoys the thrill of telling people what to do without the courage or honor to back it up. And, in addition to that, without the legal authority. Anthony Huber gave his life to save others. Now we get on to what I've marked as kind of the circumstances. The defendant came from outside the community. He was carrying a gun that wasn't his, reference to Dominic Black, having purchased the gun supposedly for Kyle, but they both claimed in court that it was Dominic Black's gun until Kyle was of age. So he was carrying this gun. He was clearly expecting violence that night. That was what Kyle went in there, expecting violence. He pretended to guard an empty building owned by a business he had never heard of, all while claiming to be an EMT. Now, it's also noted here that Binger is prosecuting Joshua Zeminski for arson, but you don't get to kill somebody for committing arson. We prosecute, we don't kill, is what Binger says. He also brings up that he is prosecuting Dominic Black for what they refer to as a straw purchase of that AR-15 for Kyle, providing an underage kid with an AR-15. So, these are all statements by Binger, obviously. No statement of opinion here, just simply Binger's statements and possibly Binger's opinions. Then we move into the setting the scenario of the Rosenbaum shooting. We're at 63rd Street car source. Kyle chases Rosenbaum, drops the fire extinguisher as he approaches the Duramax that we've seen in the videos, the FBI videos, all that stuff. And he then points his AR up at Joshua Zeminski. Side note here, because we brought it up. I debated stating an opinion, but we'll make a side note because this is a very long video, and I want to note it as things come up. But they never charged Kyle with any sort of brandishing or reckless endangerment towards Joshua Zeminski for pointing a gun at him. Quite certain that on top of being part of the gun rules, that you can't just go around pointing a gun at somebody. So if they actually believe this happened, there would be a charge there. They would also brought Joshua Zeminski to testify on the stand. So there's that. Back to Binger's situation setting. So like I said, 63rd Street car source by the Duramax, points the AR. Someone yells, "Gun, gun, gun." And Rosenbaum runs towards Kyle to stop him from pointing his gun at Joshua Zeminski. Then the video shows Kyle running / being chased from the Duramax. He turns and points his AR at Rosenbaum and then turns back forward to run, at which point a shot is fired behind him in the air by Joshua Zeminski, as we now know. Kyle turns and shoots. Kyle knew Rosenbaum was unarmed. Rosenbaum never threatened him and did not want his AR. There's no video or evidence that this happened, so it never happened. Rosenbaum was incapacitated after the first shot and falling, so there was no reason to shoot 3 more times. He was not reaching for the AR and couldn't have taken it if he wanted to, because it was strapped to Kyle. Rosenbaum then died from the shot in the back, as Binger puts it. He states that this is basically a fist fight. The way it came off to me, this is part of my opinion to describe how his tone was, but he basically describes Kyle as being basically somebody who provoked a fight, a fist fight, altercation, and then pussed out and shot the person. That's basically the kind of picture he's trying to paint. Is Kyle's a fucking pussy, and since he couldn't handle his own in an altercation, he shot someone. And he makes the direct statement, this is back to facts, he makes the direct statement, you do not get to bring a gun to a fist fight. Now, Binger moves on to count 2, which is in reference to Richie McGinnis, and that's Richie was in his line of fire. Kyle fires indiscriminately with ammunition capable of going through targets and whatever. Again, I want to note an opinion portion of this, but Full Metal Jacket, which is the ammunition in question, Binger and the prosecution, Mr. Krause and whatever, they consistently bring this Full Metal Jacket up in comparison to a more self-defense round of hollow points. And I think the defense even mentioned this at one point, but the difference between Full Metal Jacket and hollow points. Full Metal Jacket is designed to continue through a target or pierce the target, kind of. I mean, these aren't armor-piercing bullets. There's also mention somewhere in here about how Detective Krieger, or Officer Krieger, went to the back to get his plate armor because he knew there was a rifle involved. But it was because Full Metal Jackets is kind of the idea. Oh, Full Metal Jackets will pierce body armor, so you need plate armor. It's not how it works. It's the force behind the bullet that is what the vest is for. Now, yes, there's armor-piercing bullets and other things, but we're going to stick to the basics. Plate armor isn't the type, the Hellpoint or Full Metal Jacket. It's rated based on the rifle, the amount of weight of the bullet, and the amount of powder behind said bullet, the amount of force velocity behind the bullet. So that's going to be the hitting power that hits you. I mean, obviously I'm not using proper physics terms, but you get what I mean. Generally speaking, normal body armor is like 9mm and stuff like that. Plate armor is, I think, it gets to a point where it has a better chance of protecting you from 5.56, but I mean, it's still... you get shot by a 5.56, regardless if that plate stops the bullet or not, it's going to knock you the fuck on the ground, because that's a lot of force. So anyway, Full Metal Jacket is not armor piercing. And he kind of tries to state things like, oh, Full Metal Jacket's designed to be able to go through cop cars and what... Come on, man. Just stop. He clearly doesn't know much about firearms, period. He sounds like a scared anti-gun political rally person. That's where we'll leave that opinion. So, back to facts. The crowd has the right to try and stop an active shooter. So, apparently, in this scenario, Binger feels that the crowd is allowed to be vigilantes in reference to Kyle, but Kyle is not allowed to be a vigilante that night in reference to people starting fires and whatever. So, just observation, no opinion stated there. Also noted that we should point out that you can't call Kyle an active shooter because there were plenty of other people around that he never shot. Even in reference to after people were shot, like Gage, there was another individual, hands up, he never shot him. That's just it. So, back to facts. The defendant never offers assistance to any of his victims. Binger points out that he never offers assistance to Rosenbaum. He flees that scene. Never offers any assistance to Anthony Huber, who's clearly laying in the gutter. And he never offers any assistance to Gage Grosskreutz after he vaporized his bicep. He fled. Now, in reference to Gage, Gage never pointed his Glock at Kyle until after Kyle shot him. And he's not actually pointing his Glock. Apparently, Binger says his biceps vaporized, so he doesn't have the ability to hold it away or whatever. So it's actually in the process of falling. See what I have here. So, bringing all this into context, he refers to Kyle's TikTok, which, if you're unaware, Kyle's TikTok username is 4 Doors More Whores. Binger focuses on this with a perfect tone, and then states, bruh, I'm just trying to be famous. Which is another point, side topic. Through all the prosecution's presentations and stuff, I've noticed that they like to go back to that statement. They're trying to act like, oh, Kyle's just trying to be some hero, try to be famous. So, anyway, back to facts. So he talks about Full Metal Jackets here. We get into that a little bit more. Pierce's body armor and cars. Ryan Balch says it's designed to go through the target and continue on. And Ryan Balch again says that it can hit a target 550 yards away. Binger states this in, like, it'll go through a target and continue on for another, however far, no. 550 yards is the total amount. At least if I remember correctly from Ryan Balch, that's total yes. It seems to be legit based on my gun knowledge myself as well. But everything that it hits is going to decrease the distance. For anybody who knows anything about guns, they know that. Ryan Balch also says for his handgun, he loads it with hollow points because it's a self-defense round and it's designed to expand and stop, not endangering anybody else. Binger points that out to kind of say that that's why people choose hollow points, not the fact of how most of us that are considering self-defense choose hollow points because it actually blows a bigger hole in the target and stops the target. Has zero to do with how far the bullets go. At least not my consideration and not in any of my friends that I know of. Yeah, there's the added benefit that it won't go into the apartment or the house next to you, but that's already handgun. I mean, ideally, you'll actually use a shotgun because it'll stop almost instantaneously and it does a huge ass spread. But anyway, enough opinions, back to the facts. This is where he mentions Officer Krieger got his plate armor out of the back of the car, out of the back of the police cruiser, because regular armor wouldn't stop these type of rounds, in reference to Full Metal Jacket, not in reference to rifle rounds, which would have actually been a proper statement instead of focusing on Full Metal Jacket rounds. AR-15 can't you can't use the AR-15 while trying to be a medic. It gets in the way of you. It's, useless when trying to be a medic, as Binger likes to put it. You can't use it to protect property. It's illegal. And in reference to Jason Lukowski, Ryan Balch, and Dominic Black, they carried it with them because it had a deterrence value, and they never actually intended to use it. So simply having it gave the illusion of deterrence. So why is it there? If he's trying to be a medic, why was he carrying an AR-15? These are the kind of things that Binger states. Kyle's sling was so his AR couldn't be taken away. We're going to go to an opinion on this, but sling's not so it can't be taken away. I mean, that might be an added value. It might have been stated by Kyle in his examination, his testimony, but you wear a sling so you don't have to carry, like, it holds on you then. I mean, yes, it kind of helps from separation, but the sling is for comfort of not having to carry the weapon the whole time. It's to make it easier. Like, oh yeah, it might have a deterrent factor, but I mean, shit. You get in a scuffle, they might just be able to yank it off anyway. But regardless, back to the thing. An AR-15 is just simply incompatible with the role as a medic. An AR-15 doesn't exactly send a warm, inviting message. People weren't wanting Kyle's help because of that AR-15. Binger kind of points out here. No serious medic wears an AR-15. He's a fraud. He lied to Richie about being an EMT. He's like a quack doctor practicing without a license. He's a fake EMT who kills people. Starting to sound like CNN headlines. Good God. I mean, the same can be said for Fox News too, but they have a different slant. He allegedly wrapped a sprained ankle and put a Band-Aid on a cut. Yay! That's the tone that Binger's going with. Please, dear God, if you have the time, watch it. Watch it yourself. I'm going to make a point to remember to put the link down below. So check out down below. There should be a link to day 10, and then fast forward to the closing statements, which is just skipping the charges stated. He shows no remorse and only cares about himself. All the people from out of town were injecting themselves into something that did not concern them. Binger wants to make this sound like this is Kenosha. Let Kenosha people deal with Kenosha people's stuff. Stay out of our business. That was kind of that tone. They're wannabe soldiers and they just act tough. That's in reference to the militia members. Supposed militia members, that's the way we refer to them. And he uses the term veteran to refer to reporters that have been reporters for a while. Come on. Veterans a reference to one thing and one thing only. Military veterans. That's it. Nobody else gets that title. Rosenbaum, the defense will blame victims to defame his character. He refers to the hospital bag, but I also note here, this is information that has not been presented to the jury because it's been deemed not appropriate for the jury, not important to the jury. And that's one thing I don't necessarily agree with. I mean, there might be laws and whatever that protect shit, but Rosenbaum just got out of holding at a mental hospital. He was arrested. He went to jail. Like, come on, guys. I think he was on suicide watch, if I remember correctly. So, he got what he wanted. That sounds pretty fucked up, but, I mean, it puts a mindset to what's going on here. That information would be valuable to the jury, in my opinion. I mean, that's just, it's my opinion, but come on. That bag is from a mental hospital. He points out we prosecute, we don't execute, and Rosenbaum was just this person. We all know a person with an occultian complex. They're all bark, no bite. That threat to militia members, that never happened. We don't have any evidence of it. Ryan Balch's statement varies from Kyle's statement, so they're clearly lying. Now we get to the defense's closing statement, closing argument. We jump up here right off the bat, and he just states that provocation is an afterthought for the prosecution because they're losing the case, so that's the new story to go with. I forgot what he referenced. They were originally going for one thing, and then when they couldn't prove that, they decided to go after provocation. And now we mention that Kyle actually retreated in the case of Rosenbaum. In the statutes for self-defense, retreat is not required. The prosecution claims that Kyle pointed a gun at Joshua Zeminski, but they never called him to the stand. Why? If he pointed a gun at Mr. Zeminski, why didn't the prosecution bring him to the stand? All he has to do is testify that Kyle pointed a gun at him. The enhanced photo, this has been argued over by the defense quite a bit, because they claim that the pixelation of it to enlarge, to enhance this photo, was just simply the black Duramax mirror, not an AR-15 barrel. So that's where the manipulation comes in, is they're claiming that the pixels chosen by the program to enlarge the photo made the gun look like it was being pointed at Joshua, but it was actually pixels pulled from the Duramax mirror based on how the program algorithm works. That's the theory by the defense. Rosenbaum was not mentally stable. He was off his meds as, and this is allowed to be brought in front of the jury at this point because, who was it? Carrie Ann Schwartz was like his fiance or some shit, or girlfriend, whatever, and she testified to him being off his meds. He was an absolute rioter. There's video, and if y'all have been on my clapper, you've seen this. But he's literally getting and fake stepping in people's faces saying, "Shoot me, N-word." Screaming the N-word at a Black Lives Matter protest. He is Aryan as fuck, by the way. Just saying. That's not okay. We're just gonna leave that. In reference to Anthony Huber. Anthony Huber was a rioter. Again. He hit Kyle twice with a skateboard over the head. Basically, the point is self-defense. You smash me over the back of the head with a skateboard, there's a good chance I might die or be paralyzed. Just saying. So, Gage Grosskreutz, he came at Kyle with a loaded Glock. Gage is a affiliate or member of the People's Revolution of Wisconsin. He's even spoke at their rallies. He doesn't provide aid to Joseph Rosenbaum. Instead, he decides to pursue Kyle. Temporarily turns back. He was going to go pursue aid. And then as he hears the people around him yelling, "Get him," and everything else, that's when he decides to turn and pursue Kyle. The car source owners seem afraid to be sued, so that's why it's never really stated that they hired or they requested Kyle's help along with the other so-called militia members. And there was a fire being started in the Duramax. So that's why Kyle was going to the Duramax, is to put out said fire. That's why he had to set down a fire extinguisher before he could address Joshua Zeminski or Joseph Rosenbaum. Now we move forward, and soot stippling proves that Joseph Rosenbaum had his hand on or almost on the gun. This was testified by one of the, I think the ME, the medical examiner, the doctor that examined the bodies and shit. He testifies that soot stippling, you gotta be damn close. Binger wants to put Kyle's head on a wall like a trophy, and that's why he's cutting corners, says the defense. The bag thrown by Rosenbaum, which is why Kyle turns around the first time, he doesn't shoot at that point because he realizes it was the bag. This is an out-and-out political case. That's it. And here is the kicker. The defense pulls out the photo of Rosenbaum holding the trailer chain that we had spoke of. Up to this point, Binger's made a point of saying there's no evidence. Well, here you go. Zeminski and Rosenbaum. The Zeminskis and Rosenbaum were lighting a fire in a garbage can in this video that the defense shows during the closing. and they run off to the Duramax to ambush Kyle. You see Kyle start walking across the screen. They had run off because they had seen him approaching. The defense paints this picture that at this point they're going to set up their ambush for Kyle. I don't, on a personal note, don't know if I agree with that painted picture either, but whatever. Anthony Huber hits him. Okay, so I just kind of have a rundown of the event. So, as Kyle's running after shooting Rosenbaum, Huber hits him with the skateboard the first time. Then somebody bashes him over the head with a rock. Kyle then eventually goes down in this sequence after being hit twice. Then Jump Kick Man tries to kick him in the head. That's when he fires 2 shots. Jump Kick Man. Then Huber tries to hit him with a skateboard yet again. We see in the video, there's actual visual separation in the video. You can see the AR-15 being pulled from him by Anthony Huber when he shoots Anthony Huber. This was after, like, it's literally a bash. Anthony Huber's, like, coming over the top of him, and as he's coming over the top of him, he's trying to grab the gun and pull it away. Once he gets past Kyle, you can see the gun kind of separating from Kyle when you hear the shot. Yes, this was all while the sling was around him, but you can see clearly, like, I mean, metal clips on guns and shit like that can all bend. So just point that out as well. Some of the thought process that went through my head seeing that video. Now we move on to Krause's Jim Krause from the prosecution coming with a rebuttal to some of the things the defense said. And we, among other stupid shit that's been said by the prosecution. Yeah, I preface that very biasly, but you'll see exactly why. Krause says guns do not have a hand. They're not left or right. They're just there. So Binger wasn't wrong when he said things about how where this comes into hand is one of the things the defense says is your video is also not proper because as you zoom in, it looks like Kyle is now right-handed and he's left-handed, or maybe it was the vice versa. I can't remember, but regardless, here's the deal. There's an ejection port on guns where the empty shell casing comes out of the gun after the shot's fired. If you fire a right-handed weapon in your left hand, so shooting, I can't even hold this way, but shoot, if you were to shoot this way, which feels weird as fuck for me, but I'm ambidextrous. I guess I could if I actually had a gun to hold. I don't have one, for example, right now. But if you're to shoot it right-handed and the ejection port goes this way, it's shooting away from you. Now take same weapon that's meant for right hand, put it on left, and you go and shoot. The ejection port's sitting right here. You know, like that's probably this far in front of your face. If you're looking down the iron sights, maybe less. All those gases are gonna come out right in front of your face. That's pretty risky. Anyway, so just dumb shit said. Mr. DeBrune, Mr. Krause brings up, which I don't know why he brings up DeBrune, because I don't remember the defense bringing up DeBrune in their closing, but whatever. So Mr. DeBrune is one of the guys that I think he had the drone footage, I think is what came from him, but whatever. He had footage from that night of events that happened that night, and Mr. DeBrune supposedly has a problem with the police, as Krause puts it. He seems to be working with the defense. So that was pointed out. And that's really, yeah. that's all I got, man. It really, most of the information was in the prosecution's closing, obviously, because the prosecution's burden is they have the burden of proof. They have everything that they have to show. Like I said, if you guys get a chance, check out the link down below. I will have a link to the PBS broadcast, the court TV broadcast, and I highly suggest you watch the closing statements. And I haven't reviewed the ones marked as closing statements that are shortened videos that just include the closing statements. So I can't speak to whether or not there's anything cut out. What I will say is the link that I provide is the same one I watched, which is the entire day 10. And you can fast forward to the points where the closing statements are. We're getting real close to a conclusion here. And I just want to bring up, so I've also at this point fast forwarded through 11, 12, and 13, the days after day 10 here, and I'll include it in this video because there's not much to take. There's just bits and pieces of fast forwarding through 8 hours. Just kind of click and drag on YouTube to see where there's parts that are actually valid, where they're actually talking about anything. But the jury's out. The jury is in their deliberation room doing their thing, and there were just a couple things that were reviewed in this time. On day 12, I found that there was an argument brought to the judge from the defense about the drone footage that they received on Friday before the Monday closings. So that was day 9 from what I would understand. Yeah, that would have been day 9 then, because the closings were on day 10. So on day 9, one of the defense attorneys received an airdrop video from Prosecutor Krause of the drone footage. And that's the footage that the prosecution used to claim that Kyle pointed the AR at Joshua Zieninski. This file, and I'll explain, because the whole point is the file that the defense received from the prosecution was not the same file that the prosecution actually used. It was a much less detailed version, a much smaller file, and that's why the defense wasn't able to address that issue properly. So they found out on Friday, before the Monday closings. This is the point where they finally find this out, not any earlier, that the file they received was 4 megabytes, and it was a .mov, which is an Apple executable video file, and 4 megabytes. So I just noted on here, when I convert my videos for YouTube here, my videos are 20,000 kilobits a second. That's the conversion rate, just to get decent clarity. Like, I have reaction videos that I do, 20,000 kilobits per second. So that comes out to 20 megabits per second, which literally means that a 4 megabit video contains a whole fifth of a second of it could, if it were to be the detail of my videos, which is HD quality, which is, I mean, what you would prefer, wouldn't it? I mean, shit, you need at least like 480. And I mean, yeah, dude. So a fifth of a second is all the information that 4 megabits could have had on it if it was detailed. Anyway, so I point out here that AirDrop is an Apple product, and that they sent the file to an Android. That was what the defense had, was an Android. So I didn't even know you actually could airdrop. That's what Krause said he did, was airdrop to the Android. I didn't think you could, because I have friends with iPhones, and I am actually recording this on a Samsung right now. But I don't think you can airdrop. If you can, that's news to me. So anyway, keep in mind that Apple products, and this is where I say the fault is of the prosecution, Apple products are designed to be closed system. Something that Steve Jobs wanted a long time ago. You can look it up if you'd like. But they're designed to be closed system, and Androids are open system. So that would mean that the reason Apple doesn't work with Samsung is because Samsung's not an Apple. It's designed to only work with Apple. Samsung is designed to work with all sorts of other phones. It's an open-ended system. So, by that token, I would say that it's Apple's fault that it doesn't work with Android. Thus, the prosecution, being the one with the Apple phone, is at fault for having the improper file go over to the to the defense. On top of that, the file that the state had was 11 megabits. 11 versus 4. So, regardless of the little quality statement that I made about my videos, because, I mean, it still sounds like very low quality with that statement, 4 versus 11, it's almost 3 times. It's at least 2.5 times bigger, more detailed of a file. So, that was brought to the judge's attention. What came of it, I didn't see anything up to this point, but that was brought to his attention on day 12. And day 13 opens up with the judge stating to everybody that the executive producer from MSNBC, or an executive producer from MSNBC, was busted blowing a red light behind the jury bus. So the jury is being transported from out of town to Kenosha to be there, and this guy happened to blow a red light or blow a stop sign following at a distance, and was pulled over by a police officer. When he was pulled over by the police officer, he identified himself as an executive producer for MSNBC, and subsequently MSNBC has been banned from the courtroom. And I think it's kind of messed up that they had somebody stalking the jury. Seems to be a potential obstruction to justice, I guess I would say. Meddling. So, anyway, that was day 12, day 13. Day 14, I believe, we will come up on the decision. I haven't watched it yet, but I will come out with another video once I have. This has been your boy Wisco Madman. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I'll catch y'all in the next one, and do check out all my other videos. I do reaction videos, I do other opinion pieces. Yeah, man, it's been great. I'm almost done with the trial, and I will come out with a conclusion video when all's said and done. So, I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.